Okay, so I wanted to show you guys what we're looking at when we're talking about placing supraglottic airway devices. So you can actually see right here, in through here are your vocal cords, and this is your trachea, right? So if we put something right down the trachea, which is what paramedics do with endotracheal intubation, it goes straight down and into the lungs. Now, at the basic level, we are not able to do endotracheal intubation. So where all of your devices go is in the esophagus. So you'll actually see, depending on the device, where it's gonna go and how it actually works. So let's look at, we'll look at your King LTSD. So the King, you'll learn in a few minutes, the way that it is placed is you have this blue line. That blue line is actually gonna face the corner of the mouth. And as you insert it, it's going to rotate. So that blue line faces the jaw. With this particular device, you want this flange basically to be at the teeth. And what we do is we inflate, this one says 50 to 70 milliliters. So we're gonna pull up, so this one is actually 60. So we're just gonna go with 60. And we're gonna inflate. And so you think, well, wait a minute, the esophagus goes to the stomach, right? So why are we placing this in the esophagus? We don't want it to go into the stomach. But what actually happens is once you place it, as long as it's placed correctly, you'll actually see that your balloon is going to block off the air that goes to that esophagus. So when we ventilate, and I'm not gonna attach my colorimetric right now, I'm just gonna use it right here. When you ventilate, as you can see I'm having a really hard time squeezing, right? So the thing that happens with King is we need to actually pull it up. I think I might have put a little bit too much air through there. There we go. And you'll see, so now the balloon has actually moved up in the esophagus. And when we ventilate, you're actually gonna feel it coming into the lungs. So that's what you want if we're talking about a King. So remember, the King, this red part goes to the teeth, and then we withdraw, and we continue withdrawing until it's easy to bag and we have good chest rise. And then of course we need to be listening for epigastric sounds and lung sounds. So that is how you place the King. So, and you can actually see the holes right here, and that's where your air is coming from. So that way we know if we have this, when you place it in here, kind of look at how it is in there, this balloon basically blocks air from coming out of the throat, and you'll see this hole winds up where? Directly over the trachea. So that's how we get the air in the lungs. And then your little balloon, of course, is up in here, and it's going to block off that stomach. And then like we said, if you're gonna suction down it, you can actually see how the suction tubing comes out. Now, when we talk about, let's go with an eye gel. An eye gel is nice because you can see that there's no cuffs to inflate, right? You can also suction down this, and some of them actually have an extra port that you can connect oxygen directly to. So we're just gonna go with this one. This one is just a straight drop. There's, like I said, there's nothing to insert. And it's just until it's firmly seated, so it can't go anymore. And again, you'll see that hole is directly over the trachea. Now, same thing with an LMA, except in LMA we do have a cuff to inflate. This is really flimsy when it's deflated like this, so one of the things that you can do to make it a little bit easier for you to manipulate is add just a little bit of air. And then you can either hold it this way to insert it, but the thing that I find the easiest is if you put your finger here and push it up against the hard palate. And Miriam will show you in just a few minutes. But basically what we're doing again, you're just putting it until it's firmly seated. Until you meet resistance. We're gonna inflate. Again, we're hooking up that bag mask device and we're ventilating. And you'll see again, that hole is directly over the trachea. and then your balloon is gonna block off the esophagus. So it's gonna stop air from getting to that stomach. The, I guess, disadvantage of the King and the LMA is if they're not seated correctly, you have to pull them out and you have to start again. And the advantage of the dual lumen is, you know, if we put it in the esophagus, which is where it's supposed to be, and we inflate, it works just like, you know, the other devices I just showed you. But let's say on accident, for some reason, I get this in the trachea. Well, the nice thing about the dual lumen is if that happens and I inflate my cuffs, you know, when I hook up my BVM to the blue tube, it's not gonna work. It's gonna be putting air in the stomach. So all I have to do is switch to the other tube. You know, any other device, you're gonna have to pull and start again. This is the only device that allows you to, whether you get it in the esophagus or in the trachea, it doesn't matter, you can still ventilate that patient. And I think that's all of them. Did I forget any?